They don't knock on my door anymore. They run past it. Some nights I hear children whisper my name outside my window. And when I open the curtain, the street is empty. My name is Margaret Hale. I am 120 years old. And everyone in this town believes I am a witch. But before you decide what to believe, listen to me carefully. Because what I'm about to tell you explains why children are afraid of me, and why some of them never come back to ask questions. Before I begin, where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments, in case this story reaches farther than my town ever did.
I was born in 1905, long before this town had streetlights, schools, or paved roads. Back then, people didn't fear old women. They feared storms, disease, and silence. I learned early how to survive. My mother taught me about plants, about listening, about how the earth speaks if you're quiet enough. She said, people will fear what they don't understand. I didn't know then how right she was. When I was young, I married. When I was 30, I buried my husband. By 40, I had buried 2 children. Grief changes a woman. It makes her quieter. It makes her watch instead of speak. That's when the rumors began. They said my garden never died. They said animals didn't fear me. They said I talked to myself at night. But I wasn't talking to myself. I was remembering. When the children first started calling me a witch, it was almost funny. They would dare each other to touch my fence. They would throw stones at my windows and scream, "Witch! Witch!" before running away. I never chased them. I only watched. Because children can sense things adults pretend not to see. And they sensed something about me. Something old. One night, a boy named Eli knocked on my door. That was the first time anyone had knocked in years. He was shaking, mud on his shoes, eyes wide like he'd seen something he shouldn't have. "Everyone says you're a witch," he whispered. "But my little sister is sick. And my mother said, she said you might know what to do." I looked at him for a long time. Then I stepped aside and let him in. That was my mistake. I gave his sister tea. I sat by her bed all night. By morning, her fever broke. The town didn't thank me. They panicked. Because when something good happens that can't be explained, fear fills the space where gratitude should be. They said I cursed her first, then lifted it. They said I wanted payment later. They said I marked their house. After that, parents dragged their children away whenever I passed. And the children, they stared at me like I wasn't fully human. Years passed. Decades. The town changed, but their fear stayed the same. People aged. People died. I didn't. At least, not the way they expected. When I turned 100, someone painted a symbol on my door. When I turned 110, the whispers got louder. And when I turned 120, that's when the children started saying something new. They said I don't cast spells. They said I wait. Last winter, a child went missing. They searched the woods. They searched the river. They searched everywhere, except my house, because no one wanted to know the truth. But the night after the search ended, I heard footsteps on my porch again. Slow ones, careful ones, and a voice I hadn't heard in 70 years. "Margaret," it said softly, "you promised me this wouldn't happen again." That was when I realized the town was right about one thing. I am not like them. People think fear begins with screams. They're wrong. Fear begins with questions that never get answers. That night, the night I heard that voice on my porch, I did not open the door. I already knew who it was, because no one else alive remembered my name the way he said it. Soft, familiar, almost kind. I hadn't heard that voice since 1939, back when I was supposed to die. I was 34 years old when the sickness came. Not the kind doctors could cure. Not the kind churches could pray away. My skin burned. My joints locked. My breath came in short, broken pieces. The town doctor stood at my bed and shook his head. "You should prepare," he said. "There is nothing more we can do." That night, alone and terrified, I did something desperate. I walked into the woods behind my house. The same woods the children avoid today. People call them cursed now. But back then, they were simply quiet. Too quiet. I collapsed near the old stone circle, stones older than the town, older than memory itself. And that's when I heard footsteps. Not rushed, not human, measured. He did not introduce himself. He did not ask my name. He only said one thing: "You are not meant to end yet." I remember the smell first, cold earth and rain. Then his eyes, too dark, like they reflected something deeper than night. I asked him what he wanted. He smiled. "Nothing you won't give willingly." I woke up 3 days later. Alive. Strong. The sickness gone like it had never existed. At first, I thought it was a miracle. Then the years passed. And passed. And passed. My friends aged. I did not. My hair turned gray, then white, then stopped changing. Wrinkles came slowly, too slowly. When my grandchildren grew old enough to notice, they stopped asking questions. Because people don't want answers that scare them. That was the bargain. Not written, not spoken aloud, but understood. I would live, and in return, I would listen. That is why the children come to me. Not because I call them, because something in them hears him. They hear footsteps where no one stands. They hear whispers in the trees. They feel watched. And they run to the one person who understands what is watching them back. Eli's sister recovered completely. But Eli never slept the same again. He told his mother he heard someone standing outside their house at night, counting. Not numbers, names. When they moved away, the counting stopped. For a while. That's when I learned the truth. He doesn't take people randomly. He waits for fear. Fear opens doors no locks can close. And children are the easiest to hear him. The town doesn't know this. They think I am the cause. They don't realize I am the warning. That symbol they painted on my door? It wasn't protection. It was an invitation. Last year, a group of boys dared each other to step into my yard after dark. Only 3 of them ran away screaming. One of them stayed. They said he froze. They said he was staring at the trees like someone was calling his name. They never blamed me out loud. But they started locking their doors earlier. They started keeping their children inside. Too late. Because once you hear him, you don't stop. And now, after 120 years, the voice on my porch has returned. Not angry, not threatening, patient. "Margaret," he said again, closer this time, "you've had your time." I stood in the dark, heart pounding for the first time in decades, because I finally understood something terrifying. The bargain was ending. And in part 3, I will tell you what happens when he comes to collect, and why the children are no longer calling me a witch. They're calling me something else now. I did not open the door, not because I was afraid, but because I finally understood something I had avoided for 120 years. If I opened that door, someone else would close their eyes forever. The voice didn't knock again. It never had to. The porch light flickered, once, twice, then went out completely. And suddenly, the house felt smaller, like the walls were leaning inward to listen. "You kept your end," the voice said. now inside the house without ever entering. You listened. You warned. You watched. I asked him something I had never dared ask before. Why children? Silence followed. Then, because they still believe doors matter. That was the night I learned the real price. Not my life, not my soul, but my silence. For decades, whenever he came close, I stayed quiet. I let parents believe the stories were nonsense. I let the town call me cruel names. I let fear grow, because fear feeds him. But that night, standing alone in the dark, I did the one thing the bargain never allowed. I spoke. I went outside, barefoot, cold ground, no light. The trees stood perfectly still. The air felt heavy, like the moment before a storm that never breaks. I won't listen anymore, I said. For the first time in a century, the voice hesitated. You misunderstand, it replied. You were never the listener. And then I saw them. Not ghosts, not bodies, memories. Children standing where they once stood, laughing, running, alive. Not taken, not lost, just remembered. That's when the truth finally reached me. He doesn't take children. He takes fear. Fear creates the stories. Stories create belief. Belief opens paths. And I had helped build those paths by staying silent. I stepped forward. My heart hurt. Not from age. From regret. I'm done, I said. I won't be your warning anymore. The wind rose for the first time that night. The trees bent. And the voice, ancient, patient, tired, spoke softly. Then you will age. The pain didn't come suddenly. It came all at once. Years rushed through my bones like water through cracks. My hands trembled. My back bent. My breath shortened. I felt every year I had avoided, and I welcomed it. By morning, the porch was empty. No footprints. No whispers. Just silence. The town noticed the change within weeks. I needed help walking. My voice grew weak. My eyes clouded. The children stopped avoiding my house. Some waved. One little girl left flowers on my step. She didn't call me a witch. She called me Grandma. Now, as I tell you this, I feel the end near. A real end. A human one. And that is how I know the bargain is broken. Listen to me. Fear grows when we refuse to name it. Silence gives power to what should shrink in the light. And stories can save or destroy, depending on who tells them. The children don't call me a witch anymore. They call me the woman who stayed. And when I go, there will be no footsteps on the porch, no voice in the trees, just quiet. The kind of quiet that finally lets people sleep. If you listen to the end, thank you. Now you know why I lived so long, and why I am finally allowed to rest.